Hi, everybody. Welcome to Morning in the Valley. I'm Jeff Bidwell. It is Friday, August the 15th. Glad you're with us today. Apologies for skipping out on Wednesday. Had some important things needed to be dealt with, but glad to be back today. The Hall of Fame former voice of the Southern Illinois Salukis, Mike Reis, will join us here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to get his perspective on SIU's decision to retire the number 34, the legendary Mike Glenn, the former SIU standout, spent 10 years in the NBA, and obviously one of the all-time greats there in Carbondale. And Mike Reis covered Mike Glenn when he was a student reporter in Carbondale before Mike Reis began his 44-year run as the radio voice of SIU athletics. So we'll talk with Mike coming up here in just a few minutes. Coming up on Monday, we will have my conversation with Murray State head coach Ryan Miller. Got a chance to talk with him the other day. We recorded that interview the final vacation week for the Racers before they head on out or get back to campus as classes begin on Monday. But we talked with Coach Miller about his time in the Bahamas and his big takeaways for his team after their 3 wins down there. So we'll talk with Coach Miller. We'll have that interview coming up on Monday. If you haven't done so already, please head to YouTube, subscribe to the program, search out Morning in the Valley. All our past shows, past interviews, interview clips, and so on are all there. So it's all free. So if you can help us out and help us continue to grow, we will very much appreciate that. All right, a lot to get to today on a scheduling standpoint. We are starting to now get full non-conference schedules released by folks. And I will sort of give this preamble to all of this, and we'll do this probably every time we get more schedules put out by folks, is that my perspective on scheduling is I think there's a couple prisms to look through. One, there's a fan standpoint of, are there names that I know on there? Are there games that excite me as a fan to go watch my team play? And I get that entirely. My prism I'm going to look through, this is simply all about metrics. And are these schedules going to help our schools put themselves in line to earn at-large bids to the NCAA tournament? Not everyone's goal is that, certainly, as they put their schedules together. But that's sort of the prism I'm going to look through with this. Now, we're also, the main thing to remember going into this, and sort of my opinions on these schedules when they come out, are these opinions are subject to change, because what we are judging these schedules on are simply just using the Bart Torvik projections and sort of where we expect these teams to be this year. But both directions, schedules could look and end up really good. Schedules could look really good and end up not so good. You get teams that end up as top 100 teams that you never would have thought, back in August, September, October. You get, and really for me, the prime example on the flip side is like Drake last year. They go play in their MTE in November. They go beat Miami of Florida. You're like, man, that's a great win. You beat an ACC team on a neutral floor. That's awesome. And then they ended up being horrible. And it's like, it doesn't benefit you. So having an opinion one way or the other, you have to kind of write everything in pencil, because stuff will change certainly as we roll forward. But we got to argue about something. So let's get after it. The one thing I will note going in, we're going to talk about Bradley's schedule today on the men's side. We're also going to talk about Belmont's schedule on the men's side. And this is something you're going to hear Ryan Miller talk about on Monday when we get to have our conversation with him, is simply that when I said, what was the one thing that surprised you trying to fill out a non-conference schedule? He said, we could not get bought. Nobody wanted to buy us. And he said, part of it is the unknown. We're a first-year staff. They don't really know. It's like we're kind of a danger area. But you look at Bradley, nobody bought him. You look at Belmont, nobody bought him. And as this MTE structure continues to fall in on itself, and this Players Era Festival where the big boys are just over there playing themselves, and so mid-majors aren't even getting opportunities on neutral floors anymore. They're not even getting the opportunities on actual road games against these Power 4 schools, because they are just shying away from anybody that they deem any level of danger. So that is something to take into consideration here as we go through everybody's schedule and take a peek at that. So we're going to start firstly with the Bradley Braves today. as they have released their schedule. And it's a very, this is kind of that high major looking schedule. You got 5 home games, 1 road game, 4 neutral site games. And the home games, to me, really for the most part, perfect. They're all 275. 4 of the 5 games are 275 or worse. Central Michigan, Tennessee Martin, Northern Illinois, UMass Lowell. Those are those metric friendly games. You go win by a bunch, they're going to help you out. They have a quad 3 home game with Washington State, which is a return game from a home and home a year ago. Best game on their schedule right now, no question, road game at San Francisco. That's going to be a quad 1 game. San Francisco in the projection 64. Another back end of a home and home. This will be a great trip out there and a great opportunity to pick up a really substantial road win. On the neutral side, they're going to open up with the Field of 68 marathon game over in South Carolina. They're going to take on St. Bonaventure, and then they'll go to the ESPN events, the Terry's Chocolate Invitational, open up with Princeton. And then you've got an opportunity. There's Temple, UC San Diego, Towson, Rhode Island, Liberty, Vermont. It all kind of depends how it shakes out. But in the end, you have one, we hope it holds as a quad 1 game with San Francisco. The neutral games, they're all Q3s, most likely. Unless somebody, you have to be a top 100 to get into a quad 2 game. And this, we're not going to get too deep into the numbers here with, you can make your eyes roll back in your head, but there's just a lot of those teams in this event. Bradley comes in, they're at 108 in the projections, but there's a whole bunch, St. Bonnie, 136, Temple, 127, Towson, 134. Now, Liberty's an 80. Love to see them at some point in that tournament where that would be a quad 2, but they're just on that border. Can those teams just improve, play a little bit better? That would be huge to be able to get those into quad 2 games, because in the end, when you get down to the committee in March, it's what you do against Q1s and Q2s. And so with this schedule Bradley has put together, they're going to need some help to get to that Q2 level. And hopefully those folks will take care of their business and be able to help out the Braves when it gets down to March. All right, we will talk more schedules coming up in just a little bit, but our guest has arrived. He is the Hall of Fame broadcaster from Southern Illinois. Spent 44 years as the play-by-play voice for SIU Athletics, a 2005 inductee to the Southern Illinois Hall of Fame. And he is the one, he is the only Mike Reis, and he joins us this morning. Mr. Reis, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Bidwell. I have arrived. Yes, it was a long trip, but here I am.
Glad to have you here. I could not, I was reminded this morning, looking back over your wonderful career, that after 44 years in 2023, a mere 6 weeks before I took over as the radio voice at Murray State, you just said, I've seen enough. I've had enough. I don't need to deal with this Bidwell guy. Should I 2 years later take this personally, or was this just a coincidence?
Well, when you said you didn't like Skyline Chili, that just kind of added on and made it even easier. I hadn't thought about that.
We will talk about that later.
Timing. My God, if Bidwell can get in this business, I'm out.
That's all very fair. That is all extremely fair.
And Mike, it's been good to be with you today.
That's right. It's been good. Connection's breaking up a little bit here. You spent 44 falls and winters and springs covering Saluki athletics, and it's, when 30 years ago it was Where's Waldo, now it's Where's Reis. It seems like you're checking off bucket lists all over the place, popping up at sporting events all over America's fruited plain. How has this last 2 years been for you of just getting to go see some other stuff?
Highs and lows. I miss the games terribly, Jeff. I really do. And of course, I'll be 95 and think I still can do the games 26 years from now. But the day-to-day stuff had gotten old. There was an opportunity financially to make it work. And I can say a lot of things that sound good. I lost a little bit of a passion. I felt I lost a little bit of an edge. I didn't like where my game was at the end. And all of those things. I get all those things. But if you can't do it financially, you're still doing the games. And so I'm happy that part worked out. It's been fun since. It's a bit of a roller coaster. It's so easy to be lazy and not do anything. But fortunately, a lot of people invite me to come see them. A lot of people I invite myself. And so it's it's what I had hoped it would be, and I'm very happy.
It's the joy of retirement in the end.
Yeah.
You can do what you want, when you want, where you want, for the most part. So,
including Morning in the Valley.
There you go. Well, I'm glad we got you up early. I mean, I know, my parents, it's touch and go at 9 a.m. nowadays. So, if it was noon, they would be 100% in. But 9, they were like, we always watch, but we watch it later. So I
hear you.
Here. All right, Mike Glenn, number 34. That announcement coming a couple weeks ago. What was your initial reaction when that announcement was made?
Well, I'm happy for him. Having served on the Hall of Fame committee for quite a few years at SIU, I don't now. That was part of that group's charge. I hate to use a university word, but that was an important part of it, and it just wasn't a high priority for Southern. They retired Walt Frazier's number in 1974, and also Charlie Vaughn too. And Chico is the school's leading scorer, but it just wasn't a priority after that. So Southern is backlogged, in my opinion, and Glenn is the first domino to fall. And so I guess finally was the first thing that I said, but I don't want that to overshadow the fact that he is so deserving. No one should wear his number again, and whether they will or whether they won't, the fact that it will hang in Banterra Center is an important moment for Saluki basketball history, and hopefully it's the start of a handful of retirements and jersey hangings to come.
You were a young Cub student reporter back when he was part of the 1977 Sweet 16.
You put up a picture like that of me in 1977 now, I'll look at Glenn, but if you put me up there, Bidwell.
I will not.
Sorry, I interrupted.
We'll save that for a rainy day. Do you have any student experiences with him?
Yeah. I was a student reporter and a fan, which those still go hand in hand. Yeah. For a radio station in Carbondale as well as a university station, WSIU. I wasn't much of a basketball fan until I came to Southern in 1974, and what teams Southern had beginning then to learn how to be a basketball fan. And I became a basketball fan, and Glenn had a lot to do with that. Whether professionally or as a student, he's the best shooter I've seen at Southern. And it's not even close. And so good, Jeff, that every student body at every school has a reason that they go or don't go to the games. And then we would rush into then SIU Arena and be there when the doors open and to get the best seats, which happens at a lot of places. But the difference here then in the mid 70s was that we wanted to be there when Glenn warmed up about an hour before the game. And he would just make shot after shot after shot. And it was more news when he missed. And they were all jump shots. I don't know that he ever shot inside 15 feet in those days warming up, let alone in the games. And it was appointment viewing. I mean, so much so that we would count the number of shots in a row. And we were pretty proud that we could count to a high number at that time. And I'm not going to try to impress you that I remember the number that he reached or what was his highest and any of those things, because I don't. But I know it was a good sized number, and it was a number. It was enough that you would want to count them. Yeah. And so that's the first thing that I think of when I think of Glenn, because he was that good of a shooter.
Would he have taken advantage of a 3-point line?
Yeah, I think so. Jeff, that is so easy to say, and yeah. I don't want to be. What I'd like to see is a shot chart. Yeah. My knee-jerk reaction is, as with every great shooter at every school who played before 1985, boy, I'll tell you what he'd have if he had the 3-point shot. I get that, and I know I'm confident in saying if the 3-point shot was where it was when it first came out, which was at the top of the key,
right,
then Glenn would have really piled up of the points because he was a consistent scorer. He had just 6 30-point games in 104 games. So to end up as the number 4 leading scorer and end up in that spot, well, you have to be consistent. And he was at 18 18 points per game. But the shot chart would tell everything, and I'm not sure when it gets out to 22 feet where he would be, because I'm not going to pretend that I remember where all of his shots went. I know that a guy like Pete Maravich from LSU in that era, who shot from all over the floor, they did keep shot charts. And same knee-jerk reaction with him, Jeff, that, boy, if they had a three-point shot, he would have scored 1,000,000 points.
Right.
Well, they found out he would have scored 6 more points a game. So based on whatever the distance was at that time. So I think he would have scored more points, but would have been a ton more. The fan in me says yes.
You were there on the call for the Sweet 16 runs in 02 and 07. Looking back, and when we're younger, everything always seems bigger and brighter. Right. But how do you compare that 1977 Sweet 16 run when the tournament was just different? It wasn't maybe the tournament like it is today compared to those two later runs.
Well, first of all, it was a 32-team tournament, which meant Southern won the first round game in order to advance to the Sweet 16. Everything is just on a grander scale now, Jeff. I think that was an awfully good team. It had 2 All-American signees, not only in Glenn, but in Corky Abrams, who both came out of the Atlanta area, and were huge pickups for SIU. They would be SEC recruits in today's game. So while I think the 77 team could compete really well with the 2002 and 2007 Saluki Sweet 16 teams, and perhaps beat one or both of them 2 out of 3, I don't think it's a slam dunk that they're the best team, but they're an awfully good team. I didn't see the Sweet 16 game. I saw the first round game in Omaha for the 77 team and saw that team play all year. There's nothing wrong with that team. It had everything it could score. It defended. It had height. It had everything like that. I just think that 02 and 07 played on a grander stage. It'd be awfully hard for 77 or 02 to beat 2007, in my opinion. I think they could, as I said earlier, two out of 3, but I think it'd be harder for them to beat the 2007 team. The 2007 team, and rightfully so, thinks it should have been a Sweet 16 team. But 02 and 07 were a grander stage, just a bigger media event, more pressure. 02 always has a special place in my heart because it was the first one for Southern. It's the biggest on that stage. 07 was a little bigger stage, I thought, but 02 felt like it had more pressure, even though it had a little lesser stage than 07 because the games were played in Chicago with Illinois there, and so the crowds were tremendous.
It is very easy for there to be a generational disconnect. It seems like generations now, shorter attention spans and so on, for somebody that played 50 almost years ago now, that people just don't remember Mike Glenn.
Yes.
Having seen him, how would you like the current generation of Saluki fan to remember Mike Glenn?
Well, first of all, as being a tremendous person. I mean, we tend to throw that away dismissively, but Glenn lived it. Glenn was he was not a 4-point student, but he was All-American academic and all academic, and had a math degree from here and a computer science degree in 4 years. Did tremendous work during his time here and later with deaf children. He worked with them and had a special place in his heart for that. Always was accessible. I'll never forget. He was a first-round pick of the Bulls, the 23rd pick rather, in 1977, and about a month later, he was in a car wreck outside of Rome, Georgia, ended up breaking a vertebra in his back. So Mike Glenn was a god here at that time. And if Mike Glenn went to the grocery store, the only thing that kept everybody in America, like today, knowing it was that there were no cell phones. Now, you could take a picture, run it to Walgreens and develop it and show everybody 3 days later that you saw Mike at the grocery store. But every move was scrutinized. It was that sort of tight stage that he played on. So when he's in a car wreck and he's in a hospital in Rome, Georgia, I mean, that's news. I mean, people were emotional, and me a little bit too. And I'll never forget, as a reporter, the first thing you try to do is talk to him. And once you knew he was all right, and by God, I called the Rome hospital, and he answered the phone in his room, and we recorded an interview. And professionally, I was honored and feeling good about myself that I scored that interview. But I can remember, even at that age, 21, shaking my head, saying that even for 1977, this is a rare event. So he was very good to people, and had a 10-year run. So I would say to Saluki fans, I mean, this guy, played in the league. He had he had a tremendous career both here and professionally, and he also lived the part well, and he represented us extremely well. And whether you lived then or you didn't live then, you'd be proud to know Mike Glenn.
A former member of the Hall of Fame committee. As you said, there needs to be more jerseys hanging up there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like picking between your kids. I know. Give me two that you just feel like are just no brainers.
Well,
and we need to have this happen.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's Joe Merriweather, who played at that time too, and went on to an NBA career. Has a lot of rebounding marks at SIU. He should go in. He's next. Darren Brooks is the best all-around player I've ever seen at Southern, two-time Missouri Valley Player of the Year. Number 1 shouldn't be worn again. Kent Williams, his number should be retired. I think Ashraf Amaya gets a little bit of short shrift. If Merriweather goes in for his stats, Amaya should go in too, because the numbers are a little bit better. Merriweather accomplished more on a professional stage. And so what do you do? Do you retire? And I think this is what bogged Southern down for a while, and may still. I don't know. I'm not speaking for Southern, but do you retire the number and nobody else can wear it? Like Morant at Murray, can
Right.
somebody else wear the number? Or did I put you in the spot?
Because they've just changed the rules down at Murray, because we reached a point. I think they retired 10 jerseys. Like, we're running out of numbers, so they're retiring.
Yes.
They're retiring jerseys, but not numbers anymore.
Yes.
But I think Morant is its own level. Nobody's going to touch 12. But
and so that's the differentiation you have to make.
Yeah.
And then, so what do you do at Southern with Amaya versus Merriweather? Southern retired a women's number a couple of years ago, but allowed this team to use the number. And so what's most important to you, and to me personally, the number is the highest honor.
Yeah.
And so you can differentiate between that and now it's hard to sell the supporters,
right?
But that's okay too. Like at Southern, Frazier and Vaughn's numbers can't be worn. I assume that's the case with Glenn, but I don't know. But you're exactly right. And while the fans may want to serve, fans of Mike Glenn may want to serve him and Amaya and all these other guys, Brooks, at the same time, they still want their program to have good players. Right. And if a highly touted recruit, especially in this day and age, Jeff, if a recruit will only come because he gets to wear number 1, then do the fans of Darren Brooks say, well, I still want the program to be good. Let's go ahead and do it. And then you balance that with, is a great player going to play long enough to have his number retired at our level? So those are the names for Saluki basketball.
Yeah, we're actually just going through this argument at Murray State right now that Paul King, who played there in the late 80s, early 90s, wore number 30. And in the mid 70s, Les Taylor from Carbondale wore number 30, and everybody's like, that guy needs to have his jersey retired. Well, it's already been retired, and they're like, we still have to find a way to honor him. So there's workarounds. You just have to want to work.
Yeah. Football gets around it with rings of honor.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I think basketball can do the same thing, but there's a prestige with the retiring the number thing. And that's the hill that really has to be climbed in basketball, baseball too.
Coming up, you've got some odd jobs. You've been asked to take part in here. Jamal Tatum, athletics against substance abuse, presenting reunion at the Rim Saturday, September the 6th. There's going to be a Q&A panel that you're going to be dealing with there with old Coach Rodney Watson. Walk me through what's going on with this.
Yeah, thank you for the mention and shout on that. And Jamal has worked very hard at this. He's got a tremendous number of players from 02 and 07. He played on the 07 team. He's one of the great players, and supporters of him would argue that his number should be retired too, or certainly his jersey should hang in the in Banterra Center. But he has long been a fighter for programs that help people with substance abuse issues. And that was true as a player. It's been true since he left, and it's true still. And he has gotten a lot of former players to come back to an event on September 6th, and I'm looking forward to co-hosting that with Rodney Watson.
AASAofficial.org. Information on how to get tickets to that event, September the 6th. He is the Hall of Famer, Mike Reis. One last thing. I spent Monday through Wednesday this week doing a belated 50th birthday party in your hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh.
And after went to a Reds game on Tuesday night, and after a couple adult beverages around midnight, one of us in the traveling party, not me, decided to spend $80 door dashing chili. Skyline chili. They were chili cheese conies, I believe they were. And the box opened.
3 ways?
I went through my entire filibuster about this is dog food, and I am not. There's no way.
Even after midnight, you couldn't cave.
3 minutes later, I was eating one, and I will say, at the moment, I was like, I can. It's 12 o'clock. I can see the appeal. At about 3 a.m. when I woke up, and I was like, that was one of the poor adult decisions I've ever made.
Exactly right. And I'll tell you what, the $80 also hits well too.
Oh yeah, very much so. Very much so. DoorDash after midnight. There needs to be some sort of spousal agreement on that, rather than us making our own dumb decisions.
That does my heart well. Good for you, Bidwell.
No, not good
for
me.
Good for you. No. I thought you were hopeless. I thought you were hopeless. I didn't say helpless. I thought you were hopeless.
Yeah. Well, there's as my dad likes to say, that's a twice in a lifetime experience. It's the first time and the last time. So we'll see how that goes. Mike Reis, thank you, sir. Enjoy your weekend. Go do whatever you want to do today.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, buddy. Thank you. There is the Hall of Famer, Mike Reis, and great man. The thing about Mike that I loved, and we've had a very, I've been in Paducah and working down here, working with Murray, and he's working at SIU forever. And, we always said, hey, how are you? When we would cross paths for 20 years. And one of the nicest messages I got was the night I was doing my very first game with Murray State doing radio. And I got a text message from Mike Reis that just said, go get him. And that meant the world. So great man, even though he loves Skyline chili, and we're well past trying to cure him of that. But that is, boy, that was just a poor decision on my part to say the least. All right, back to the headlines of the morning. We talked about Bradley's schedule. Bradley has also announced a signing. We talked about this the other day as a commitment. It is now officially signed. Handy Toussaint has signed with Bradley. 6'8" forward from Weatherford Junior College, averaged about 8 points, 7 rebounds a game last season. He is a late replacement, a late signing. Myar Wall, who had signed with Bradley. It was a very short relationship with Wall and the folks at Bradley. He was in, he was out. Wall has since committed to Bowling Green, but Brian Wardle able to fill that slot with Handy Toussaint. Okay, now we go back to schedule conversations. because who doesn't love schedule conversations? We have Belmont, who has announced their men's basketball non-conference schedule. And this is one that is very much built on potential. They are, as they have touted in their release, that based on last year's net, there are 14 in their totality of their schedule. There are 14 opportunities to play quad 1 and quad 2 games. But if you look at the Torvik projections for this year, they have 5. And that is the fine line between, is it a Q2 or is it a Q3? And do teams overperform? Do they underperform? And how does that? It is all an imperfect science, but that is what Belmont has. Their 5 home games, again, good home games from a metric standpoint. Air Force, Tennessee State, Lipscomb, all Q4s. Richmond's coming in. They're a 129 in the Torvik. They're a Q3, but, could be a top 100 before it's all said and done. They have 1 non-D1 game. 4 road games. They go to Oral Roberts, which will be a quad 4 game. We believe they will go to Charleston. They'll go to Middle Tennessee. They get 1 quad 2 game at UC Irvine, who will check in at 93 to start the season. They've got an MTE down in Fort Myers, Florida at the Coconut Classic. No field, no opponents. We don't know what's going on down there, but we know they're going to have 2 games at the Coconut Classic let's see, I guess that's Thanksgiving week down there in Fort Myers. But again, you look at this year's schedule, they've got 5 Q1 and 2s. Last year it was 14. That's a huge gap, and that is a huge differentiator for a at-large resume to be like, we had 14 Q1 and 2s. You're going to get people's attention. 5, especially when 4 of them are in the league. That's another conversation. But that's where you need everybody on that schedule to take care of business, because again, not one high major to be found on that schedule. Nobody wants to play Bradley. Nobody wants to play Belmont. Nobody wants to play Murray State. And that list will grow as we see more of these schedules come out. And it's the new way. And teams are going to have to counteract that as best they can. One other piece of Belmont news, as one of the founding fathers of Belmont basketball, Robert Barnes, has passed away, was on the first Belmont team, the 1952-53 team. Still to this day, of course, freshman didn't play back then, played 3 years, scored 2,305 points in 3 years. Third still on the men's basketball all-time scoring list. He averaged 28.2 points per game for his career, tops in the Bruin program, and he is one of 3 Belmont men's basketball players to have his jersey retired, the number 15. But a moment of remembrance this week for that Belmont program as Robert Barnes has passed away. All right, more scheduling news now, and this a Murray State situation. We knew the matchup. Now it's like we've got the whole picture going on at the Jack Jones Classic, December 13th, out in Henderson, Nevada. And it will be 4 games. I think last year it was just 3. They've expanded to 4 games this year in Henderson, just down the road from Las Vegas. Murray State will take on Akron, who comes in the Torvik projections 95, so it's a Q2 neutral site game for the Racers, as long as Akron can hang out in the top 100 throughout the year. And then you've got Santa Clara, Arizona State, UNLV, Tennessee State, UC San Diego, Tulane. That's a heck of a day of basketball. For anybody that maybe, mid-December, a little pre-Vegas trip right before Christmas, let's go enjoy some basketball one day. And, it's December. I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago in July when it was 187 degrees. So I feel like it's probably a better time for just personal survival to go in December. But the Jack Jones Classic has been set. Racers will be the first game of the day with the Zips there. So, and then it's 3 games after that. But that schedule has officially been announced. Another game, again, we knew about. Now it's just officially official. Kentucky will host Valparaiso, part of an MTE at Rupp Arena, the BBN United Tip-Off Classic, which is ultimately just a round robin where UK gets 3 games in their home building. Valpo will be one of them. It'll be Friday night, November the 7th, first week of the season. The Beacons will take on the Cats. Illinois State, our friend Rocco Miller has another non-conference game coming into the SEFCU Center up there with Eastern Kentucky rolling in December the 3rd. Believe this is a guarantee game that Illinois State is buying EKU. It looks like it'll be a quad 4, but it's one of those scary quad 4s. Again, in the Torviks, 175 EKU coming in at. So a team that maybe they can get off to a, play well this year. Maybe it can climb up into a quad 3 type of game. Or they maybe bottom out and it's a quad 4 team you can hammer and help out the metrics again. But that'll be December the 3rd, Illinois State hosting Eastern Kentucky. And let's see, we also have Illinois State going to Orlando, another branch on that Terry's Chocolate Invitational, a 4-team MTE, just 2 games, Illinois State, Charlotte, Furman, and Richmond. And we now have the matchups for it. Illinois State will start off with Charlotte. That'll be the first game on the docket there on Thanksgiving Day for the Redbirds, as they will get Charlotte, who, again, projected Q4 game 214. The other game, you have Furman, who's a 124, Richmond's a 129. If Illinois State can take care of business against Charlotte, you've got an opportunity that you could again, this team's got to get into the top 100. Could be a Q2 game for them, and that's certainly what you hope for from an MTE standpoint. So Illinois State, that schedule starting to come together, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to get their full body of work here very, very soon. Former Southern Illinois, old friend alert, Ali Deba, a 3rd-team All-Missouri Valley Conference guard last year, transferred out, went into the portal, did not know if he actually was going to have another year of eligibility, had to appeal for that eligibility, but he has been granted a 5th year. So now he is on a scramble to find a new home. We've seen some August signings, and that's the interesting part here with the House settlement. Now the roster limits at 15, is you've seen a lot of teams kind of hanging out at 14, like maybe just in case. We saw Belmont add a transfer from Gonzaga earlier this week to get to their 15 spot. We'll see what if Deba's able to find a spot. Look, he averaged 17 points a game last year at SIU. Again, 3rd-team All-Valley. As a freshman, he played just 5 games at Chicago State. So obviously that was the, basketball's not like football. Football, you can play 4 games and still redshirt. Basketball, if you play 1 second, your redshirt year is burned. But apparently there must have been some sort of injury. They were able to appeal and get him another year. So we'll see where Ali ends up. Hopefully there will be a place for him to end up somewhere. It is August the 15th. Classes are starting everywhere, so it'll certainly be a mad scramble for him trying to find a new home. SIU women's program has added a player late. They have signed Carmen Morales. She is from Spain, 6'3" center, played last year as a freshman at Benedictine College in Kansas. That's an NAIA program. 4 points, 4 rebounds a game last year as a freshman, coming over from Spain. But again, you're going to bank on the size and maybe the pedigree there a little bit at 6'3", and hope she'll be able to help Kelly Bond White's bunch this year in Carbondale. All right, we have talked a lot about schedules, and now we are going to talk about the schedule. And this is at Belmont, to their credit, on the women's side, they put out on their social media when they released this, they said, here's our schedule. Please let us know, to paraphrase, please let us know if you see anyone with a better schedule. And I could not agree anymore. Last year was just an absolute meat grinder. And this year they decided to go meat grinder plus a level. Belmont, 5 home games: Brown, Lipscomb, Princeton, Kentucky, and Duke. Brown and Lipscomb, quad 4 games. Great. Last year in the net, Princeton was a 46. Kentucky was a 19. Duke was a 7. Those are 2 quad 1s and 1 quad 2 games. On the road, they're going to go to Oklahoma, quad 1 game. If you go by last year's numbers, 14 in the net. They're going to go to Tennessee, quad 1 game, 12 in the net. Going to go to Dayton, 160. That'd be a quad 3 game. They're going to go to Middle Tennessee State, 54, another quad 1 game. And then they're going to go to the Bahamas, play in this Baha Mar, the Pink Flamingo Championship, from an MTE. There's 8 teams. they only have 7 right now. They're still trying to find an 8th team to go down there. Basically, they will break up the 8 teams into 2 groups of 4, and then you'll get 2 bracketed tournaments. But the teams that are down there, it is Belmont, who is, again, last year's net number was 50. Alabama, 17. Ohio State, 18. Harvard, 38. Minnesota, 37. West Virginia, 13. And the weak link of the bunch is South Florida at 77. So of the 7 teams right now, you have South Florida, who would be a quad 2 opponent on a neutral site. The other 6 teams are all quad 1s. So depending who comes in, and depending which bracket you're going to get, which bracket Belmont is going to slide into, there is right now you have 5 quad 1 games on the schedule. 1 quad 2, 1 quad 3, 2 quad 4s, and then Baja Mar, where you're likely getting 2 more quad 1 games. So you get 7 quad 1s. Belmont is going, and they said they finished 50th last year in the net, and they were so close to picking off some of these games. They just didn't win any of them, and that is what kept them out of at-large conversation. If they can do it this year, and you get a Kentucky and a Duke and a Princeton at home, and you're able to pick some of those teams off, let alone on a neutral floor, and then they can, get to the championship game again. I know Bart Brooks, they want to cut the nets down wherever the Valley tournament is this year. I think up in it's over in Iowa. That they would love to do that. But if they fall short in the championship game, they will have done enough with this schedule. If they can just get a couple wins along the way to really put together a case for an at-large. But that is, you want a schedule that's going to excite a fan base. You want a schedule that's going to excite the metrics folks. That is the schedule right there. Big, big, big hitters on there. And Bart Brooks and his bunch never dodging an ounce of smoke. And they will get after it. So very much looking forward to seeing how they are able to stand up against this slate coming up this year. Okay. Recruiting news, Indiana State. It is Zoe Dispinette out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 2026 recruit. She has committed to play for Mark Mitchell and Indiana State next year. 5'11" shooting guard. She's an interesting. We can call her a late bloomer, I think is probably the best way to put it. She has had several. Again, coming out of Milwaukee, she has had several Division III offers. 2 weeks ago, she went to the elite camp at Indiana State, and then yesterday announced, I'm coming to Indiana State. It was her first Division I offer, and she jumped on it. But we will see if this is a diamond in the rough that kind of, again, that late bloomer who was under the radar a little bit, goes to one of these elite camps and impressed the folks there at Indiana State. And now they offered, she jumped at it, and she will be a Sycamore coming up next year. Some old friend alerts, and we don't want to, there's no age shaming here, but some folks that haven't played in the Valley in, 20 years. But John Little, who played for Northern Iowa from 2002 to 2006. He has been named a new assistant coach of the Phoenix Suns, played 10 years overseas after his career at UNI ended, came back to Cedar Falls, was the video coordinator for 2 years for Ben Jacobson, went to the G League as an assistant coach for 5 years. This past year, he was the head coach of the Valley Suns there in Arizona, and now he has been bumped up as an assistant coach there on the new staff with the Suns. One other scheduling note on the men's side, UIC will once again, we knew they were going back to the Boardwalk Battle down in Daytona Beach, November 20th through the 22nd. We have now found out their opponent, and they will take on High Point in the opening round. Torvik 109. So again, right on that Q2, Q3 borderline. That's an NCAA tournament team last year, so a really nice game for UIC right out of the jump. We'll see if they are able to take advantage of that opportunity. The other half of the bracket, win or lose, they'll either get Incarnate Word or Southern Indiana. And really the marquee portion of this trip for UIC will be game number 1 against High Point. Okay. It is now time, as we wrap things up today. We are going to go through I don't know. We're going to go down speculation boulevard just for fun. There has been, as we talked a week and a half or so ago about our friends over at the March to the Arch podcast, just dropping the little Sunday night news drop about that the Missouri Valley was looking to expand to 14, as much as 14 for the 26-27 season. And you kind of look around and you're like, all right, who's this going to be? Who could it be? Is this really going to happen? Are we just going to get to 12? We're going to get to 14. Well, all those pieces of who's a viable candidate to kind of move in and, fill the vacancy left by Missouri State and add more and potentially get to 14. This was, I believe it was Wednesday. Days have run together as we get towards the end of the week here. I believe it was Wednesday that it in kind of shocking news, at least from a standpoint of from somebody that covered the Ohio Valley Conference as long as I did, that Tennessee Tech, one of the founding members of the OVC, 1948, has announced they are going to the Southern Conference next year. So this will be their last year in the OVC. And this is, it was presented strictly as it is a football move and trying to move from a conference that was so gutted in the last couple of years by realignment that the OVC had to go to a sort of a football conglomerate, I guess, with the Big South, just to have enough schools that they could play football. And when you look at the last 4 or 5 years that the OVC, lost Austin Peay and lost Eastern Kentucky and lost Jacksonville State, and all three of those schools, it was all football. It was all football. And they had reason, Jacksonville State, they have already made the jump to the FBS level. And Eastern Kentucky and Austin Peay, seem like they're trying to get in that direction to follow suit at some point, trying to set themselves up. And what happened when those three schools left was there very quickly became it felt like a game of musical chairs with other alignment around the country of, if we don't find somewhere else to go, it's like, we're not sure the OVC is going to make it right now because teams were just jumping. And these were the I say the best teams and the best programs, but these were just like the most high profile teams. Belmont then decides we're gone. And that would have been fall of 21. And then in January of 22, Murray State says, we're gone and we're going to the Missouri Valley. And so the OVC was just in a scramble mode. Now they picked themselves up and were able to grab some other teams. They got Southern Indiana. They got Lindenwood. They got Little Rock. And in just an effort to try to reinvent itself. This is a wildly long way around the block just to say, I don't know from a viability standpoint, when Jeff Jackson and his staff at the Missouri Valley, and they're talking to the presidents and the ADs and everyone around the Missouri Valley, what is the number one quality in a program that you want to bring in? If you want to bring someone in, if they are not just content, and he has been said, we're happy with 11, but you just have to believe at some point, whether it's today, tomorrow, 10 years down the line, that number will grow at some point. What is the number one quality that they're looking for? Is it basketball success? Is it media market, which I feel like has fallen on its face in a multitude of conferences around the country because it doesn't necessarily work. Is it a place that you can get to? Does it have an airport? Simple things like that. And so I just look at the OVC now, where you're like, okay, Tennessee Tech has left, and they are now trying to scramble to find some other folks to replace them. Will there be more peeling off from the OVC? And will those teams that peel off, will they go find somewhere to go? And that has been sort of, I feel like the from the outside looking in, the strategy of Jeff Jackson looking at the landscape of, let's let everybody else sort of, whether as realignment was poaching other places, the Mountain West, the Pac-12, all this stuff that's been happening all over the place, that let's just let all that happen. Let some dust settle, hang tight, and then we might be able to find some teams that are looking for new homes that may not have been looking for new homes before. Maybe this can be something that is beneficial to us. You just look at the Missouri Valley or look at the Ohio Valley, and I'm like, I don't know who it's supposed to be. There's no one that just jumps off the page. You're like an absolute yes, and that's the part that, but I feel like that's everybody. Whether the schools that have been mentioned, whether it's been Milwaukee, whether it's been Omaha, whether it's been Kansas City, any number, they just get poo-pooed because you're like, that's not helpful to us. The only the recent history to lean on is you just look at Loyola Chicago and them coming into this valley, 15 years ago, whenever it was, and they were at the bottom of the league, and took them a few years, but then bang, they're not only winning the league, they're getting to the Final Four, and then they were such a viable commodity, they moved on to the A10. So past results don't indicate future performance, but you're like, who's it going to be? Would it be, from a footprint standpoint, you're like, well, Southeast Missouri, right in the heart of everything. But, they've made the tournament one time in 25 years. Is that a viable addition? And then it all comes down to resources. Are these schools going to be willing to put the resources in to compete with every school in this league now that has in the Valley that has opted into the house settlement and is going to be spending millions of dollars to try to elevate their basketball programs? Are they going to be willing to do it? Is Little Rock a team that you would want to be able to get in there? Southern Indiana, who's come up from the D2 level, and they're right there in Evansville. You've got a natural. Again, there are maybe one or two yays reasons and 10 reasons quickly why you'd be like, I don't think they're going to work. Again, long way around the block on this. Just keep an eye on the OVC. Tennessee Tech has left. Will someone else leave too? And if someone else leaves, does the OVC start wobble a little bit and people start jumping? And when they jump, is the Missouri Valley a landing spot? So just keep an eye on the OVC and it'll play itself out now coming up over the next several weeks and months. Murray State, when they made their announcement in 22, I think it was January. So we've still got some time because everybody's got to give their notice to be able to get out by June 30th of 2026 to be part of everything in 26, 27. So there is time for things to play themselves out, but just keep an eye on the OVC. Just keep an eye on the OVC. If this hanging out here of there's going to be 14 in the Missouri Valley next year, just keep an eye on the OVC. All right, that does it for a long-winded edition of Morning in the Valley today. Thank you to the Hall of Famer, Mike Reis, for being with us today. Coming up Monday, we'll have my conversation with Murray State head coach Ryan Miller after the Racers' successful trip to the Bahamas. Team classes start Monday, practices start Tuesday for them, so we'll get his thoughts on the Bahamas and looking ahead to the 25-26 season for the Murray State Racers. If you haven't done so already, please head over to YouTube, subscribe for free to Morning in the Valley. Share, comment, like, all that stuff helps us out as we continue to roll on, as we are now 80 days from the start of the 2025-26 college basketball season. Thanks for watching us today. We'll see you Monday morning, 9 a.m. right here on Morning in